Listen here, if there's bags under my eyes, it's because I just had a grueling leg day. It was the first one in the past 2.5 weeks since starting my lovely teeth surgery, which is actually a proud moment for me, was doing leg extensions very lightly, about a week and a half. So if we imagine a 3-week break from going to the gym, a week and a half in, I did like a set or something or two of leg extensions so that I didn't achieve atrophy. And so what a gift I gave myself, because I went in today not feeling like a total, cripple. So it was very nice. It was a very grueling leg day, but my heart rate went way too high because I had very little to eat before, and then I had way too much caffeine because I had my BCAAs and then my pre-workout, and then I also had to take an Advil, like just a tiny bit. I have the 800 milligram tablets over here. I cut maybe 200, maybe 250 milligrams worth of Advil, ibuprofen, and then use that prior to going to the gym. But that also has, I believe, a little bit of caffeine in it. I think ibuprofen does. So when you combine all of those on malnourishment prior to going to the gym, on a very exhaustive leg day, first leg day back in 3 weeks, it's a concoction for disaster. I almost passed out in the gym, literally just getting up quickly here, excuse me, after I finished my post-workout meal, which was oatmeal, protein shake, and yogurt. I literally almost fainted again. I said, what the hell is going on here? Fucking blood pressure, it's killing me. I wanted to take a pause before we get into law number 43, which is work on the hearts and minds of others. And I wanted to, it's a perfect time for check-in of the 48 laws of power, because just yesterday it felt like kind of like a graduation ceremony from this book. So the whole gold of this book is all of the quotes that I constantly invite for you to consider, for you to reflect on, for you to reiterate to yourself, for you to implore, absorb, become as a part of your habit, as a part of your character, right? Some of those quotes are: stand guard at the doorway of your mind. Stand guard at the doorway of your mind, okay? Always, okay? Because when people who are literal wolves in sheep's clothing come to you to try to manipulate you, to try to trap you, to try to, be a little weasel rat, right? A little snake, a little serpent snake wearing like a little unicorn hat, if you've ever seen that meme. Maybe I'll put that in here. No. You can spot a snake from a mile away, right? You get a very heightened, sharpened skill of discernment. Another quote, very important for what I'm about to share with you. I allow manipulation from my enemies to see where they want me to go, and I use my mind to break the trap and punish the perpetrator. Very, very important quote, right? To be what? Perspicacious. Here's the third one that I constantly invite for, consideration. My unmatched perspicacity, coupled with sheer indefatigability, makes me a feared opponent in any realm of human endeavor. I'm going to share with you right now how I exemplified all three of those yesterday. So, as I shared in a prior lecture, yesterday, March 10th, today's the 11th, was my last sort of affiliation within my previous rat life case. As in, it was the last time I got called in to the attorney's office, and while I can't describe the details of the case until it's done, I can describe the treachery garbage that these attorneys tried to implore on me. And I asked God before going into the meeting, I asked God to go into this meeting with me. And so I wholeheartedly believe that every question that was asked, every response that I gave, which was measured, which was emotionally controlled as best as I could, I believe that they all served my highest good. As in, if this results in me getting fired from my job, then that was for my highest good. Because I wholeheartedly believe that God went into that room with me, and then every response and every awareness, because my God, I had very, very little sleep that day, because my sleep schedule was completely backwards, and I had to wake up. I slept maybe like an hour, and then I had to meet my brother at the gym to give him a spot on bench press. He's pressing 310 pounds for 3 reps, in case you wanted to know. And so he needs me, because I'm the only one he trusts, to give him a lift off. And so I was sleep deprived for that, and then the meeting was at 9 o'clock. Yeah, 9 o'clock in Cerritos, which is about 15 minutes from Fullerton, where I live. And so my sleep was very deprived, right? But my discernment, I was so sharp. I was so sharp. And had I had more sleep, maybe I would have been more, reactive rather than responsive to the questions. More emotionally heated by all of the garbage that they insinuated and all the little treacherous and traps that they implored and all the fabrication that they did. I was literally sitting there like, is this fucking amateur hour? it was insane because it's a 1 versus 2, right? It's associate attorney and attorney, and they're making up shit that I didn't say, and they keep, misquoting me, and they're taking notes, and I'm just like, this is fucking concerning that if this case is filled with the fabrication that, it's just, and so I was calling this all out, and I was literally laughing because it felt like fucking amateur hour, because you think that the ones who have the, heightened discernment are the professionals here. So when I say those quotes, I don't say this with arrogance, but it's completely true. My unmatched perspicacity, my unmatched ability to perceive, my awareness, and I attribute that to God gifting me presence, gifting me sharpness. Because if you've ever been like in a fog and then there's like a delay and sort of things that are happening going over your head, when I tell you my discernment was so sharp that I could see the fucking traps that they were laying for me to self-incriminate myself, I literally paused mid-speech. I said, wait a second. And I literally said this. I was like, I'm not incriminating myself. But I have to thank God for that. Do you know what I'm saying? But it exacerbates that quote. My unmatched perspicacity, coupled with sheer indefatigability, I never give up, I never quit, makes me a feared opponent in any realm of human endeavor, including litigation, including me going toe-to-toe with, professionals. And I use that in fucking air quotes from the garbage that they did, which one of them, oh my God, it was a scene from Rounders. Because again, I can't tell you the details of, the case. I'm not, this isn't over. But if you've ever seen the movie Rounders, where Matt Damon is just check, 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 check. And then he hustles I think he's French, the, French dude. And he's like, check, 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 motherfucker, all you do is check. He's KGB. He plays a Russian guy, but I think that actor is French, IRL. If you've ever seen the movie The Three Musketeers, the original one, he's one of the Musketeers. Awesome guy. Anyways, I'm literally laughing while the associate attorney is, basically just fabricating shit that I'm saying, and I literally had to call it out. She's like, you said this, and I said, no, I didn't. And then she's like, you said this. I said, nope, didn't say that. And then she goes back to her notes, oh, my mistake. And then I laugh because I'm just like, what the fuck? It's hilarious because it's just, you're just lying. And so the other one, who was like her superior, dude, she lost it. Like, she literally projected so hard. And it was such a fucking proud moment for me. Because number one, it exacerbates that scene from Rounders. Like, check, 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 you motherfucker. For me, just, being in this, like, happy-go-lucky, my normal state. Not allowing any motherfucker to dim my shine. Like, I'm not afraid of these people. And it's so beautiful when you operate life like that, that the only person you fear is God. Period. It's not your fucking boss. It's not the person who's going to threaten you with intimidation or bullying that they're going to, fire you. It's not these fucking attorneys in this building with these made-up titles. Get the fuck out of here. It's like, it's God, and that's it. Because you get to choose, right? I can choose to align with love, with peace, with calm, with grace, or fear. Fear is the voice of the enemy. That's what they want you to do. They want you to be on that fucking low vibration. And so they'll do these manipulations, and they'll do these traps, and they'll do these emotional projections. And let me tell you the great irony of the whole thing. I explained to them what manipulation was. I said, manipulation is when, the toxic individual does this disrespectful behavior to provoke a reaction from you, right? But then they'll never address what they did to cause it. And this fucking attorney did just that. She literally spoke to me with so much disrespect, so much, it was so fucking inappropriate. She said this verbatim, and this isn't a part of my case here, so I can say this. She said, in a like, she raised her voice and almost in like it wasn't a shout. I'm not gonna say it wasn't. It was in a total shout. She was like, you don't get to ask any questions, we get to ask questions. And I stopped her right fucking there. And I said, excuse me? I said, no, you don't get to speak to me like that. And I literally would not move forward with the questioning. And then they were like threatening to like kick me out. I said, no, you don't, what in the hell, where do you think you get off by, let me word this carefully. What in the fuck makes you think you can speak to me with that kind of disrespect? That is incredibly inappropriate. Like, the whole time I'm offering you quite mutual respect, consideration, courtesy, etiquette, fucking professionalism. And you shout, you raise your voice, and I literally repeated the same garbage that she said to me. And then got her to acknowledge it and apologize while she's trying to bulldoze. And what's so important about this book that we're going over is I told you, Manipulative motherfuckers, they love speed. They love speed. That's how they can employ their manipulation. They don't like it when you slow things down. Because when you slow things down, you shine a fucking light on the manipulative garbage that they're doing, that they're insinuating. And so do you see how we're exacerbating all those quotes? My unmatched perspicacity, right? Coupled with sheer indefatigability makes me a feared opponent in any realm of human endeavor. I always stand guard. I always stand guard at the doorway of my mind. I allow manipulation from my enemies, because this was the manipulation, right? She raises her voice. She tries to employ this gaslighting, and the reason that I can corroborate, yeah, that's the right word, that it's gaslighting is because the next thing that she said when I responded to her that do not speak to me with that disrespect, please. Is this how you act at work? That I thought it was fucking hilarious for the irony of what I said manipulation was, right? And so all of this, I'm sitting there and I'm when I left and I'm on my drive home, and I was talking to God, and I was so fucking frustrated, and I was so grateful that this is the last time I have to deal with this fucking garbage. I said, God, I am so proud of the man that I am today. The one who does not tolerate disrespect from anyone, ever. The one who has this heightened, exalted skill of discernment. The one who can see through manipulation from a fucking mile away. And the one that I'm literally the embodiment of the hero that I wish I had when I was a kid. Right? Because had 18-year-old Tark been sitting in that room with me, I know that he would be looking up to me with pride, with admiration, because I had the courage to stand up to these fucking bullies, right? And you can say bullies in any context. I don't give a fuck what your made-up title is. I don't give a shit that you're doing a investigation on me for my disrespectful conduct. No. This is all bullshit. It comes down to character and fucking integrity. And let me tell you another comforting, so much comfort, is when they said, we have all of this inappropriate communication from you, and it's going to be uncomfortable. You know what I said? Bring it. Bring it. See what you got. And I told this to God, whether I said it verbally or it was just in my thoughts, and I said, it is so comforting to be able to go into judgment with such calm confidence, knowing the consistency of your character and your actions. And everything they brought up was just complete bullshit. It was this person who used an empty threat on me, and then, so I was able to squander that one. It was this person who tried to get me to say that I did something that I didn't do, and then that squandered that one. It was this person trying to use the most desperate of measures and trying to get me to apologize for being a good, thoughtful, caring, considerate person, and that squandered that one. And I felt such a pride. I felt such a self-satisfaction. I felt such a honor and alignment with God, knowing that I fucking stand with truth, and I stand with character, and I stand with fucking integrity, that on judgment day you can bring any fucking bullshit and there is just complete calm, because I'm consistent with what I say and what I do. And so as much as you try to threaten and to intimidate and to manipulate and to set up these stupid fucking traps, right, I can stand there in that storm of life and say, do your worst, for I will do mine. And so all of that is hopefully what you get if you actually take the time to disseminate a book like the 48 Laws of Power. Because what is it going to do? It's going to give you an exalted level of discernment. Because you get to see all of the manipulation that other motherfuckers implore on you. It's not to use the manipulation, but it's to be aware of it. Because the whole name of the game is pattern recognition. So that when a motherfucker has the audacity to insult your intelligence by imploring this garbage, you have the courage to say indirectly, go fuck yourself, because I'm not the kind of person that tolerates this bullshit. And when you set that precedent, you'll make these motherfuckers feel very uncomfortable to ever implore this kind of disrespect to you ever again. It's so important. That's literally the precedent that you set, the standard that you now have for yourself. And so no one is excluded from that, including these motherfuckers trying to raise their voice, trying to speak to me with disrespect. I called that bullshit out immediately. Immediately. I said, no, you don't get to speak to me like that. What makes you think you can talk to me like that? Excuse me. This is completely inappropriate. This is completely disrespectful. And you set that precedent fucking clear. So I was so proud, and I wanted to share that, because there's no specifics I'm giving you on the case, but it's, you think this is, people are immune to this. No. This garbage persists in every fabric of life. You think just because this person has the title of attorney, associate attorney, in a non-biased investigation where you're one of their fucking clients, these motherfuckers will do this kind of bullshit to get into the lecture. So I said, work on the hearts and minds of others. That's law number 43. And I put proud moment, 48 laws, personal growth, full circle, 100%. We went over that. And I said, don't tolerate disrespect anymore. I don't fall into these manipulation traps. I said, exalted discernment. You said this, and I said, no, I didn't say this. And then they said, you said this, and I was like, no, I didn't say that. And then I said, as if God did it on purpose, to say, smiling, at last he's ready. I said the quotes, I allow manipulation from my enemies to see where they want me to go, and I use my mind to break the trap and punish the perpetrator. And it was from their self-incrimination and from their attempted fucking gaslighting. And it was another thought that I had, that I went through 18 months of gaslighting from my serpent snake. You think there's a world, there's a scenario where I tolerate this garbage from you for a fucking second? I don't think so. Yeah, I said when she lost her control and literally shouted at me saying, you don't get to ask any questions, we get to ask questions, get the fuck out of here. And I said, the hero of my younger self. So that's all that I wanted to share in terms of the audit. And I hope you got as much out of it in terms of your own self-introspection on where you're at in your journey as I did, even though it was amidst frustration, even though I was like, fuck, I'm so sick of this. But then in my iteration, I said, this is the last time you have to deal with this bullshit, because this is your last meeting with these people, and whatever the verdict is from my HR director, congratulations, you got fired, congratulations, you are, innocent. I'm done with that 100%, you know what I'm saying? So I'm free no matter what. God has gifted me my liberation regardless. And so I said, you never have to deal with this manipulation, with this projection, emotional projection, with this gaslighting, with this bullshit ever again from these motherfuckers, right? Regardless of their title, regardless of the office, the building that they're in. I said that was the last time in this level, right? Not to say I'm not going to be met with that bullshit later on, but I'm going to be so much more well equipped, even more than I was yesterday, in the future. But in the future, when my garden is literally, just as it is right now from the precedent that I'm setting, is, there's a blockade, there's, restricted access to me now. There's going to be far more restricted access to me in the future, to where anything like this garbage is like, no, get the fuck out of my garden, you snake motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? So with that, I don't have any notes, because that was the majority of the lecture, because the quote was, work on the hearts and minds of others. Work on the hearts and minds. It literally, this law, a law of power, is to implore your manipulation, to implore or to take advantage of someone's lack of discernment, their undeveloped skill of discernment, to take advantage of that so that you can manipulate them to the end of time. And so the beauty of this lecture is kind of like what I'm going to do when we finish the 48 Laws of Power, and I could, it's the book, The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene, the whole thing, not just, the laws, is the gift that you get from the completion of this book, but not just the completion of it, from the implementation of it, from the absorption of what we're talking about, right? From the reflection, from the iteration, from the person that you become as a result. Okay. With that, quote from the book. Excuse me. Persuasion is more effective than force. That was a quote from the book. Persuasion is more effective than force. And I thought of two things. The second thing I thought of was in the iteration when I was doing my lesson plan. But the first thing was a quote from Niccolo Machiavelli, who says, never attempt to win by force what can be won by deception. And I love that so much. But my note was the attorney's mistakes. Had these little children offered an environment of non-traps, non-manipulation, non-gaslighting, non-emotional projection, just spoke fucking plainly, with honesty, with integrity, wow, they probably would have gotten way more information. They probably would have gotten so much more self-incrimination, whatever the case, if they just weren't bullshitting me the whole time, if they just weren't fabricating what I was saying, if they weren't setting all these traps for me to incriminate myself. It was so fucking insulting to my intelligence. And I expressed this in frustration to one of my angels. I said, I am so sick of people who are trying to, and this is probably when I talk about the winning with God, or God looking at me smiling from a test that I passed. I said, I am so sick of people who are not smarter than me thinking they can manipulate me and attempting to. It's so fucking insulting to my intelligence, and I hate it so much. Because I hate people that do that to begin with, but when you try to do that garbage on me, someone who's had a lifetime experience of it, It's just like, now I'm at that point, and again, this is from the passing the test with God, that the lesson will be repeated until it's learned, that I don't tolerate this bullshit anymore. Cut it the fuck out, right? But when the people who don't know you and think they can get away with this on you because they've gone away with it, countless times to other people, it's like a random event for them. It's like, oh wait, that's weird. I've been able to get away with this bullshit for, all the time with all these other people who don't have your discernment, right? Who aren't a feared opponent in any realm of human endeavor. That's weird. This is my job, and you have greater discernment than I do, greater attention to detail, greater awareness. That's very, very odd. How is that possible? Because you're not fucking smarter than me, so let's cut the bullshit. Okay. I just wrote that in my notes. I'm not trying to commit hubris here by saying that. It's just, these lectures also help me vent. And I fucking hate people that feel comfortable manipulating and offering that bullshit. I fucking hate it so much. It's such garbage. And the fact that they're able to do this and get away with it, absent accountability, is fucking sickening to me. So anytime now that I have the opportunity to call that bullshit out, who tried to insinuate that trash, that garbage onto me, there's such a sense of pride when I think about the person I was X number of years ago who would have said nothing, who would have tolerated it, who would have endured it. And then you begin to sort of hate your soul. Your soul becomes on fire because of a mirror reflecting the courage that you did not have at the time, if that makes sense. As in, when you allow cowardice to stand because you don't have the comfortability with conflict, and then you go back to your shower when you get home, and then there's the ocean of the things that you wish that you said. The only things, when I got home and all the things that I wanted to say, I'm so glad that I did not say them, because what it did was it exacerbated my emotional control and stoicism. It's like Professor McGonagall, oh, there are many things that I would like to say. And so it just gives me a sense of pride. So hopefully you can, understand my venting. But those were my notes that I had for persuasion is more effective than force, 100%. If you would have just been honest and not been this manipulative, snake in the grass, you would have gotten way more, potentially at my detriment. But because you went the route of, let me see if I can deceive him, let me see if I can entrap him, let me see if I can set up all these fucking deceptions, let me see if I can implore all of these manipulations, you realize quite quickly that you were unmatched relative to the opponent that you decided to step into the arena with. And that won't be the lesson learned by so few. It'll be, there's a good quote from, I don't want to say that I murder people. That's not what I'm saying at all. Let me just preface it. By Batiatus in Spartacus, where his enemy, who was the other Lanista, I forget his name. He was a little weasel rat. And he says, well played, Batiatus. I underestimated you. And then he's about to be sentenced into the arena to die. And he says, you won't be the first to die for making that mistake. Again, I'm not insinuating Tark does anything. I've said countless times in prior lectures, you don't have to do any vengeance. You don't have to do any personal vindication. God takes care of all of that. But it will be the precedent that you set, that motherfuckers who feel comfortable stepping into the intellectual arena with you will be sadly mistaken by that mistake. That was said right. Sadly mistaken by that mistake. I could choose a different word by mistaken and mistake. Again, interrupted. All right, here we go. If in all your encounters, take a step back. Take the time to calculate and attune yourself to your target's emotional makeup and psychological weaknesses. Force will only strengthen their resistance. So this ties in with the quote, persuasion is more effective than force. Force will only strengthen their resistance. You learn this whenever you talk with people who have been through any sort of abuse, any sort of trauma, and you're trying to get them to let go. When you address the things that they did, which, was obviously their fault, this is what you're going to be met with, because you're attacking me. So I have to defend myself because you're attacking me. I saw a beautiful quote. It was by Daryl, who channels Bashar, this entity. And he said, there can be no change without ownership. I loved it so much. He either said change or power. I think it was power. There's no power without ownership. There's no power without ownership. And what he meant by that is, until you assume responsibility and accountability and personal agency for all of everything in life, you say it's my fault, I'm to blame, there's no power to improve, to change, to remedy. You forfeit that. I've talked about this so many times in previous lectures. If you forfeit cause, if you forfeit blame, ownership, you forfeit salvation. You say, the cause is out here beyond myself, not me. right? Somebody else. That's the victim narrative. Therefore, my salvation is out here. How convenient. How convenient that you can't do anything to better your situation, to save your life, right? To put you on a better course, to change trajectories. Convenient victim narrative, right? Always involved, never at fault, and there's nothing that they can do about it. That's the victim. You're not a motherfucking victim. You're a hero. And so what you do, you give yourself power by giving yourself ownership. So I love that. Force will only strengthen the resistance. If I have a conversation with someone and I say all of these things indirectly, as in I talk about the exact problem that they're doing, right? The folly of their actions. And I learned this from the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. But you offer it in a self-degradating kind of way, self-degradation, where you say, man, this is nothing. I did something way worse, way more humiliating. But do you know what I learned from it? That if I act this way or do this, I get these way better results. And I was able to. And so what happens? And especially if you do this, talking about the exact same thing that they're doing, then this goes out the way. Because even though you're addressing everything that they're doing, all their actions, all their behaviors, all of that, you're doing it indirectly. So it's not an attack on them. It's an attack on this other thing that just, coincidentally has to do with every single thing that they're doing. I know that's vague. I'm trying to think of an example off the top of my head, but I hope that you can fill in the blank. You can give your own example. But it's the best way to get people to change, to get people to let go, to get people to listen to counsel, to words of encouragement, to solutions. When you present it and you package it in a way where it's not an attack on them, because then they get defensive, because then ego comes into play. Then, this is about me, and it's judgment, and it's criticism, and it's condemnation. No. I'm going to tell you a story where I did the exact same thing, if not even more worse, more humiliating, but this is what I learned how to improve the situation. This is what I did to solve that problem. And then you just offer it as sort of food for thought, nothing to do with you. Anyway, what were we talking about? And they're so much more receptive. And then they not only listen and consider and reflect and absorb, they apply. And so I've done this countless times for people within relationships, with women that I've dated who are broken, who are emotionally unavailable, who aren't healed. And I'll plant these seeds of belief, these seeds of possibility for them to what? I get branded as the villain for acting as a mirror to their emotional projection, to their trauma, to them bleeding on somebody who didn't cut them. And I offer these little food for thoughts, food for considerations that one day when the humility goes up, ego comes down, and they're in a place to receive all the words, all the seeds of belief that was planting. They consider, they reflect, they absorb, they heal, and then they attract. And I can't tell you how many times I've done that, where I've indirectly, from seeds that I planted, healed someone, and I consider myself a healer. And then it's on their Instagram, oh man, I met the love of my life, oh, we just got engaged, all this. Why? Because they healed, because they finally tended their wounds. They stopped bleeding on people who didn't cut them. They stopped, allocating blame to all of these other parties, and they finally looked at themselves in the mirror and they did the inner work, right? They healed. But you have to, and that's why I say that people who are just coddling you, they do you the disservice. They do you the greatest disservice. Those aren't people who actually love you. But the one who will actually call you out on your bullshit, that is somebody who actually gives a fuck about you. Because they want to see you healed. They want to see you healthy. They want to see you in loving relationships, in a loving relationship. That's someone who actually fucking likes you or loves you. People don't understand that. And so you have to understand this. If you're a healer watching this, you will seldom in your life get the thank you. You'll see them so much more healthy as a result of, the vibration that you gave off for them to one day ascend to, for one day them to resonate with, for one day the seeds of belief that you planted so long ago finally get watered because they believe it now for themselves. You'll get to see the end result, but very rarely do they come back and say, thank you so much, you changed my life. So understand that the quote that you're exemplifying, if you're a healer on the path, is life is about planting trees under whose shade it will never sit. That's all. Your job is just to be a good person, just to align with God, just to align with being Christ-like. Exalted character, integrity, work ethic, perseverance, heart, offering people the gift of belief, which is unconditional love, right? That's it. Anything else, you're not here to save anybody. You're not here to be anyone's salvation, right? That's on them. And so all you have to do, if you're aligning with Targ House, if you're aligning with Rat Life, right, this mission that anyone can escape, it starts with belief and the courage to pursue, is just aligning with these virtues and these ideologies, not expecting a return from it, or, you know, you're not viewing these relationships or these interactions as transactional. I'm not trying to get anything from you. I'm just trying to enact the quote, treat others as you would like to be treated. I just want to give people belief. I just want to give people love. I just want to find my tribe, right, who resonate that exact same ideologies, those same ideologies as I do. And so imagine that. Imagine one day I get to wake up and every person in my reality is just encouragement, support. Yes, this is amazing. This is a great idea. How can I help, right? Love, and that's it. Not fear, not anger, not worry, not concern, not spite, not all this low frequency vibration garbage, not this manipulation, not this deception, not all this treachery. Fuck all that, right? Peace, gratitude, healing, love, acceptance, right? Joy, enlightenment, which is authenticity. Peak courage, the courage to be yourself. That's the cost of fucking entry into my garden. Is I want you. I saw a great video. It said the difference between fitting in and belonging. Fitting in and belonging. Fitting in is you contouring your edges, right? If you're a circle trying to go into a square, and the circle is like bigger than the square, and you got to cut off this edge, you got to cut off this edge in order to contour, in order to fit. I don't want to use imageries that I shouldn't. That's fitting in. It's you squeezing yourself to fit into this space. Belonging. The requirement to belonging is you come as yourself, nobody else. Not a character you're pretending to be, not a character you're pretending to play, not a fucking mask that you're wearing, or countless of them. No. If you want to be in my garden of Rat Life, of Targ House, the requirement of entry is you checking your fucking ego at the door. You cutting all this insecurity, in the sense of, not that you don't have insecurity, but you're cognizant and you're aware of it. You're not bleeding on anybody who didn't cut you. We're here to grow. We're here to learn. We're here to discuss. We're here to heal. We're here to have the dialogues, even if you have a differing opinion from me. That's fine, right? But you come in as yourself with the courage to put your walls down, with the courage to become a better person, with the fluidity to, if I invite new information to you, you have the humility to change your, perspective. Right? I don't necessarily want to say your beliefs or values, which are, deeply rooted, but that's the whole definition of someone with humility, is that if new information is provided to me, that I had we'll say a bias or a short-sighted, perspective on, then I'm in a very secure place to now consider this and have this actually, shown within my consideration based on my new, perspective. That comes from humility that most people don't have. Most people are my way or the highway. Most people are, I'm too good to learn. Most people are fucking arrogant. And those people do not belong and will never gain access to my beautiful, nourishing garden. Because I don't want to fucking deal with you. I'm not here to argue with you. I'm here to discuss. I'm here to help. I'm here to heal. I'm here to learn. I'm here to grow. Right? I'm here to spread love around the world. Right? Okay, almost done. So that was the quote. Force will only strengthen the resistance, for all the lessons that I just shared, if you took notes. Like children, most people are ruled by their emotions. 100%. This attorney was no different. Like a child throwing a tantrum with their emotional projection and their disrespect, very inappropriately, most people, like children, most people are ruled by their emotions. And so what's peak masculinity? Peak masculine virtue. Emotional control, emotional stoicism, someone inviting this gaslighting, this manipulation, these traps, this garbage, this projection. And you literally, if you've ever seen James Bond, he does this more perfect than anyone. And you have such a respect for the guy that's under fire. Jordan Peterson, a good example, if we don't want to use a movie character, where he's getting attacked, and he's just so cool, so calm, so collected. He doesn't react, he responds. And because he's someone who, took the development of his skill of articulation so seriously, he responds with such grace. And there's no one you have a greater admiration or respect for than the one who has all of these verbal attacks on them, and they're able to keep their cool, number one, but then they're able, to decimate the other person in rhetoric. You're just like, God, I wish I could speak like that. I wish I could express myself like that. I wish I had that level of emotional control. right? When anyone else's, their blood pressure would be, through the roof because they're dealing with this idiot. And this guy was able to remain cool, calm, collected, despite insult, despite projection, despite all of this garbage. That's the guy we want to be. And so that's why it's important. That's the leader you want to be, I'd hope. That's the leader I want to be. And then that's the leader we can be. We can be. Okay. All right. Only a couple more quotes, guys. Push people to, oh my God, this is so important. Push people to despair, then give them relief. If they experience pain, I missed the why. If they experience pain and you give them pleasure, you win their hearts. What do you think motherfuckers do in toxic manipulative relationships, including my serpent snake? If you give them pain, abuse, in a learned state of helplessness, not all at once, but like the frog that's in boiling water, they cook you slowly over time. It's a little gaslighting here, a little disrespect here, a little verbal, emotional projection here, and they'll do it over time, right? And they'll do abuse. Anyone who's been in physical, sexual, emotional, verbal relationship, you can attest to this. Abuse. One fucking nicety when you're expecting to be, put down or abused or not complimented. Wow, how easy do we forgive and forget? Wow, how easy do we enact this exact quote? If they experience pain and you give them pleasure, you win their hearts. Why do people stay in abusive relationships for years and years and years on end? Because this manipulative fuck does the one nicety for you to forget all of the 9 other abuses and harassments and gaslighting events. So what's the name of the game? It's pattern recognition. And I said this to these attorneys. I said, they were like, when was this, sort of turning point? And I said, the quote that I learned from Joe Dispenza, the game is not forgetting when they do the abuse, when they do the harassment, when they do the bullying, because the most manipulative fuck is so good at getting you to forgive and forget and to indirectly get you to thank them for their abuse. Anyone who's been in an abusive relationship, you can attest to that. So the whole name of the game for you is to not forget, to stay awake, to stand guard at the doorway of your mind, to allow manipulation from your enemies, to see where they want you to go, and use your mind to break the trap and punish the perpetrator. To have unmatched perspicacity, unmatched ability to perceive, right? And indefatigability, as in, I will never forget. I'm never going to let you forget what the fuck you did, right? And you don't have to do anything except act as a mirror where these snake motherfuckers will feel so uncomfortable coming to you with their deception because it's as if you're casting a light on all of their treachery, on all their satanic behavior, on all their garbage. And so that's the game. Don't forget. While they try to fucking lull you to sleep with their manipulation, right? That's how you graduate from Rat Life University now. From applying what we're discussing within the 48 Laws of Power, within this book. This battery's gonna die. One sec. Alrighty, we're almost done. Hey, hang tight, guys. Hang tight. We're almost done. Does that make sense? Stand guard at the doorway of your mind. Okay. And I hope that makes sense of why people stay in abusive relationships so long. It's from the omission of pattern recognition. It's from pain, and then they get the pleasure one time, they get the nicety one time, the flowers, the compliment, they get laid, whatever. Forgive and forget all the 9 abuses, all the 9 manipulations, all the 9 gaslightings. So the name of the game, if you want to escape that rat life could be the form of a shitty relationship. It could be the form of the relationship you're unhappy with, the physique you're unhappy with, the financial status you're unhappy with. When I say anyone can escape the rat life, any form of life where you're not experiencing complete and utter ecstasy and pleasure and passion and excitement and enthusiasm. So that's one form of living the rat life. The way to escape that rat life, that shitty relationship, pattern recognition, and then having the courage to find your voice, to call out the bullshit when they do. Because the manipulative motherfucker, this is what they'll do. When you call out their abuse, when you call out their toxicity, behavior that they know that they're doing, I swear to God, you'll see them do one of 2 things. Number 1, they'll either get off on it. You'll see them smile, these sick fucks. I have so much experience with this. You'll see them get off. As if they want to be caught, as if they want to be called out. Bullies, they get off on manipulating other people. And so the person who stands up to them, it's a fucking game to these sick faggots. That's 1. Number 2 is they'll play the victim when you go there. That's their go-to card. And in my serpent snake, perfect example, you'll see the crocodile tears come out. It's anything that they could possibly do to get you to feel sorry for them. And that's peak manipulation. Is when the toxic faggot who's doing the abuse actually gets their victim to feel sorry for them. So the way you escape that treacherous garbage is, the frog from Shrek. When he's like, tell us, his name is Arthur. Is pattern recognition, is calling it out. Having the courage to call it out every time. Every time they feel comfortable coming to you with this garbage, because you have to remember this. Abuse, it's behavior that you're tolerating. What you tolerate is how you teach others how to treat you. And so I made this mistake with that work. I made the precedent clear that I'm okay and comfortable tolerating abuse, bullying, harassment, all this bullshit until I said enough, right? You have to be the same way. And so this is the most important thing within relationships, to set that standard, that precedent, that framework from day one. I am not the person, I don't have the identity of someone who tolerates disrespect, tolerates manipulation, tolerates projection. And if you, in this relationship, whatever that you might be in, if you didn't set that precedent from fucking day one, it is so much harder to set it later, after they've already basically have you under their web, under their spell. Because then there's a sense of sort of fear that, whatever the case may be, whether you're in a financial obligation with this person, whether you think you'll never find another person again, whether you have attachments to them, like you have a house together or kids, whatever, there's fear aspect that comes into play. Or if this person it's a physical abusive, that if I were to call them out on this, then they might hit me, etc. So there's a lot of nuances to it. However, your life will never be made worse by you having the courage to stand up to the bully. It might be in the short term, whatever, but your liberation, your freedom from this garbage is on the other side. And so that's the importance of you finding your voice, having the courage to pursue, the courage to tell this motherfucker, enough, go fuck yourself, right? Okay. So that's the beauty about you doing that. You set that tone for others, right? Imagine you're a parent and you have the courage to stand up to this, snake fuck, and then your kids get to see that courage of standing up to the bully once and for all. I could probably resonate with that personally from being I don't want to say a victim of abuse, but from, childhood with a very abusive father figure, right? Seeing my mom stand up to him, seeing all of our kids, be liberated from that. It's such a redeeming feeling when you sort of get your liberty back by getting this faggot, his head on a pike, right? Proverbially speaking, of course, but it's so liberating when you finally stand up to the bully, when you finally stand up to the piece of shit that's doing all of the abuse, whether that's sexual abuse, which my family has experience with, whether that's physical abuse, which I personally have experience with, not imploring it, but receiving it. And yeah, because then what is it? Then you get to be that person that enacts what we talked about with Viktor Frankl, the 3 decisions that you can make in this life, what you focus on, the meaning that you give things, and the action that you take. You can give it the meaning that, which I did, all this did, all my childhood, all of my upbringing, all this did was teach me how I'm never going to treat my wife, how I'm never going to treat my kids, the man I'm never going to fucking be, right? You get to choose to be the villain, and say, the world hurt me, right? I'm going to hurt it. I'm going to do this kind of abuse to my future family, and I'll show them, right? A faggot piece of shit like that. Or you could be the hero. You could say, I'm going to make sure that I never do this garbage to anybody else. That my daughter, Alice and Charlotte, my daughters, they're treated, future daughters, I don't have it here right now. I think, no. They're treated like fucking princesses, man. That no motherfucker lays a hand on them, or else Tark will be going to prison. Okay, we're almost done to finish. I know there's a tangent, but you see the truth in it. You see the importance of pattern recognition. You see the importance of standing up to the bullies, because then you will be in that learned state of helplessness. And then it's so important, because this is what will happen. When we talk about don't use the past as a baton to beat yourself to death with, when you understand, you give yourself power, right? And I said there is the quote from Daryl, who channels Bashar, there's no power unless you have ownership. Until you take full responsibility that this is my fault, even if you're the victim of any sort of abuse, until you say this is my fault, you don't give yourself the power to remedy the situation. Do you understand? And so when you finally do say enough, when you're healed from that, there's a good quote, once you remember your value, you'll be embarrassed of the shit you once settled for. It's so normal for you to shit on yourself with hatred, with anger, with resentment, for being the person, right, who is smart, who's intellectual, who should have known better, and who allowed themselves, from the behavior that they tolerated, to live in that shitty environment, circumstance, state of fear for so many years, right? And that was what was permitted, able to stand. And so you'll have that resentment for yourself. I offer for consideration, to just gift yourself grace, as if you treated yourself as if you had a friend who was in your care. How would you treat that person, right? How easy would you be to forgive their shortcomings, their mistakes, their oversights, etc.? That's how you should treat yourself, but we never do. Why? From the quote from Jim Rohn, the reason that we're so hard on ourselves and we make ourselves so hard to love is because we're so cognizant of our shortcomings, failures, and neglects. And so when you know that, oh, I was smarter, oh, I should have known this, and the worst thing you can do, and we're all, a victim of this. I am not immune to this. I did this exact thing when I finally got out of this 18 fucking month abusive relationship from my rat life job. And I just ostracized myself, you know what I'm saying? From like, I should have known better. I should have called this out earlier, but I didn't because none of the other administrators and managers called out this bullying, called out this abuse. And so you go down that sort of mental route of shitting on yourself versus what you should be doing, which is from Viktor Frankl, focusing on, wow, I became the man who had the courage to stand up to the bullies finally, to be the one voice who finally said enough, right? Who was the beacon of light and hope for others to have the courage to speak the truth, to stand up to the abuse, right? No, Tarek Hawks, right? Let's focus on that. Let's give this a beautiful meaning. This happened for me. Evidenced in the attorney meeting. Look at the man that you became that you never would have had you not endured all of this abuse and bullying and harassment, right? Pride within yourself. Not using the past as a baton to beat yourself to death with, right? That's the positive you, and then what am I going to do about it, right? What standard am I now going to set as my precedent for every interaction, every relationship, every meeting, discussion to come in the future? This all seemingly negative on paper, right? Abuse, bullying, harassment, all of this happened for me. I wouldn't wish this on anyone. I hated it while I was going through it, but gosh darn it, I am so happy and proud of the man that I became as a result of persevering through all of that shit. You know what I'm saying? And so it's beautiful because God will never give you that sort of cross that you can't bear yourself. And it'll get motherfucking heavy, let me tell you, but then you always have him to offload it on. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't take this anymore. God, I'm putting this on you. It's such a relief knowing that you are never alone. It's actually from the book The Ultimate Gift by Jim Stovall. I laughed so hard when I read it. He's talking about this guy he's an ascended master in terms of his enlightenment. I'm sorry, not The Ultimate Gift, the monk who sold his Ferrari. And then he's like, you're never alone, you know. He's like, oh, nothing. So good. But it's very true. It's very true. So if you feel like you're on the edge right now, take a time. I would say the easiest thing you can do is just go on a walk and have a conversation with God. Speak to God as if he's a friend. Not using old English, but literally just talking to him like, listen, I need to vent to you. And I would always do this on my walks. I'd say, I'm not trying to commit hubris. I'm not trying to complain, but I'm literally just offloading on you. So, and I would preface it like that because I don't like to bitch and moan when I know that if everything in my life is happening for me, then that even the negative is happening for my highest potential and my greatest good. But it doesn't mean I don't fucking hate it while it's happening. Like, when you want to make a forest grow abundantly, you have to pull a Thanos and you have to, incinerate a little bit of it. You got to prune your garden in order for it to flourish, in order for it to grow. We're no different, right? You have to get fucking decimated to elicit growth. You have to go through a ton of pain in any aspect of your life, whether that's going into the gym. I have to endure pain to elicit a stimulus. Pain is the stimulus required for growth, for healing, right? For all of this, you need that, right? Or this is all the catalyst for you to finally say enough, and so you become this version, this level of yourself, right? This, terrible as it is, happened for you. But that doesn't mean you can't go on a nice walk with God and then tell him, you hate this. But I know that you can pull me out of this at any time, and so I have full trust in you and your plan for my life. Okay. So that exacerbates that code with abusive relationships. Push people to despair and then give them relief. If they experience pain and you give them pleasure, you win their hearts 100%. Every person who's in an abusive relationship for years and years, me 18 months of my rat life fucking job on end, can attest to that. Almost the final quote. The quickest way to secure people's minds is by demonstrating as simply as possible how an action will benefit them. Self-interest is the strongest motive of all. The cause seduces, but the self-interest secures the deal. And that actually was the last quote. And I was just talking about how You have to understand whether this is in sales, whether you're trying to seduce someone in a relationship, everyone is only concerned, just like you are, with what benefits them, their own self-interest. And so if you can understand that, it gives you a different lens going into any sort of interaction. We learned this in the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, that one of the best things you could possibly do if you're trying to influence someone, if you're trying to win friends, is put yourself in their shoes. It sounds cliche, it sounds cheesy, but think about it. If I'm able to glean the wants, the desires, or the fears and insecurities, hesitations, objections of my potential prospect, whether that's a sales prospect, whether that's a charming seductress suitor, right? Then I'm able to offer that presentation, that package, that sales pitch accordingly, right? I'm not selling them on what I think that they need or what I think that they want, but what they fucking actually want. Quote from Alex Hormozy: if you want to earn more in sales, sell people shit that they want to buy. It sounds simple. It sounds very, very simple. But that's how you can differentiate great leaders, great salespeople, great, seducers, tarkouts, versus the novices, are the ones who are trying to sell their own bill of goods bullshit. And when you're the receiver of that, what's the rhetoric? They don't give a shit about me. I'm $1 for them, or I'm just, I'm just a piece of meat, But if you actually, bridge the gap of care, right, of compassion, of their lens, their perspective, how they view the world, what makes them happy, kind of a deal, that's how you'll really win them as a lifelong mistress, no, as a lifelong fan of yours. People like people who like them, or who are interested about them, or who make them feel significant, or make them feel like they matter. So you can achieve all of that by understanding that one simple law, that your cause will seduce them, right? With your mission, Tark Houck's Rat Life, anyone can escape. It starts with belief in the courage to pursue. Rat Life, we are all going to make it. The cause will seduce them. However, the self-interest secures the deal, right? The self-interest. What do you get, right, by being affiliated with Tark Houck's? You get healing. You get nourishment. You turn on any social media platform, and what is it? Bullshit, gossip, hoes and naked promiscuity. It's just all trash. It's all perpetual distraction. It's all bullshit. Tark Houck's Rat Life, it's nourishment, it's beauty, it's healing, it's discussion, it's authenticity. Very rare in the world that we live in today. And so what's the result? Creating an environment where people feel so safe to let go, to discuss, to heal, to grow. When I had a vision for Rat Life, I said, if I'm going to build this most beautiful garden, what would be the most beautiful garden? It'd be something that's free, and there's so much fruit and benefit for other people, as if the mindset, the rhetoric, the narrative is, you walk into my garden, you go, all of this is for me? All of this is for me? And I'm just like, yes, please, stay a while, take whatever you want, And that's the vision for this to come, is to create a garden so beautiful, this university, this literature, this education, that any person with a Wi-Fi connection has access to what they do not teach you in school, right? Any of this information, any of this insight, any of these discussions, you will never have these conversations in school. And so I thought about the other day, I said, how beautiful is it that we're actually equipping people with exactly what they're going to need when they go and graduate. Have you ever heard that narrative where, wow, I wish they would actually teach me shit in school that was actually useful to what I'm, going to be facing in the real world when I graduate school. Every single person who goes through the indoctrination, which is what modern education is inevitably going to go to a fucking Rat Life job where they're inevitably going to face shitty leaders who manipulate, who gaslight, who deceive, who do all of this treachery bullshit. So imagine a university, imagine having a real education where you were actually equipped and able to combat this bullshit from day one, right? This pattern recognition, and you had this developed skill of perspicacity, something that you don't develop when you're in school. And I hesitate for just a second because I studied classics, which is the study of the ancient world, antiquity, ancient Greece, ancient Rome. And because there's only 1% of surviving material, and so they call it, iconography is a good example, where when you're doing archaeological excavations, we have 1% of surviving material that when we're trying to generate an image or a narrative of what life was like back then, you're basing it off of fucking 1%. It's as if you come into my apartment and you see one thing, this is my bookmark, it's a Valentine's Day card my mom gave me and my sister's. Cappy Valentine's Day. Don't judge me. No. You're judging the entire world of Tarek Houck's based on this one card. That's the equivalent. And so what it did for me was it gave me It gave me discernment, because it gave you critical thinking, because you would see all of this political propaganda and all this bias and all this bullshit. A good example is this. If you've ever read, I believe it's called the Amatoria, Ars Amor Amatoria. It's by, I think it's by Ovid. It's like the Book of Love. I know it's embarrassing. I thought I studied this. The whole book basically sells you on the idea how the person that you want to date is a poet. That's the person you want to be as your lover. It's like, wait a second, hold up, wait a second, somebody right. The person writing this is a poet, so he's able to draft this, this beautiful, piece of literature that the person that you want to take as your lover is him. This bullshit. So anyway, when you study this kind of thing, you get such a heightened degree of critical thinking and discernment to see through all of this bullshit and to see people's ulterior motive. So I put that huge asterisk when I say, when you go down modern education route, it doesn't give you perspicacity. If you study a form of the ancient world or ancient history, it does give you that sense of critical thinking, because there is so much bullshit, propaganda, bias, or just non-existent information. Does any of that make sense? So with that, guys, I think we covered it. I think that's law number 43, which is work on the hearts and minds of others. And so I think that's very, very beautiful when I think of the garden that I'm trying to build, when I think of the bricks that I'm trying to lay so beautifully one at a time, that encompasses fully the rat life and Tarek hoax. So I hope any of this resonates with you, and we're all going to make it, and I'll see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed.